Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Lopes Goes Last podcast channel, and welcome back, Dan. Actually got a week off for once. Hopefully your bye week was spent recouping, relaxing, and healing your ears from all the bleeding that I cause from these podcasts. But today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be, first of all, reacting to the first round of the NBA playoffs. And then we are going to be predicting the second round. I know, the second round has already started, so some of this may be cheating a little bit, but I at least will acknowledge where the cheating has occurred and where I probably would have gone had things not already played out the way they needed to. But we're going to do that, and we're going to predict the second round and just talk a little bit about what we've seen, what we liked, what we didn't like, and we'll just look at, what we got right, what we got wrong. It's going to be a good time. Dan, how are you feeling about everything?
I'm feeling good. We got most of the stuff right.
You did. I didn't.
Well, we both missed on the Suns.
Yes, we
that was an epic fail on.
I think most people missed on the
Suns.
Suns. Yeah.
And I mean, we were talking about like even acknowledging some games that have already happened. I think I wouldn't have expected the Wolves to do what they're doing right now to the Nuggets even.
Right.
We were full in agreement. It's like, yeah, they're old school like the Spurs were 10 years ago. It's not going to work. Not today's NBA. It's working.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy. But we'll get to all that shortly. We're going to start with ultimately what was my favorite series of the entire playoffs in the first round, Celtics Heat.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to start there. I feel as the Celtics fan, I should probably go second as to not just completely upheave everything you would possibly talk about with this.
Upheave anything anyway. So.
Well, I try not to, but this one, there's 100% guarantee I would have. So I might as well just let you go.
There's definitely more. I think I'd be, if it was another sport or Packers, or we're both talking Red Sox. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's stuff that we could probably talk to bore put people to sleep. Because it's we're more invested in the teams. I definitely have some service, but yeah. So I'll take on the first one here, Celtics Heat. I think we both talked about not really expecting a sweep from the series. I thought it was not surprised, but I will say Boston looked resoundingly good, and in every game in the series, even with the loss, but especially. Derek White, he's had a coming out party for me, and I think for really pure basketball fans and stuff, just because if you saw him in San Antonio before he got to Boston, there is a certain amount of people that already knew about him. Well, now the national stage is getting to know him more. For me, it's nice to see him as kind of that third offensive star. For the team, I think they needed that. Drew can do that, but that's not his. That's not why he was signed to that team. He was signed to be the defensive specialist, to be more of a pure point guard, which is rare in today's NBA. Derek White put up 38 in Game 4, 25 in Game 5. Jalen and Jason Tatum, they still did their part. They were still throwing it down with him, but for Derek to be able to carry that as well. And lead the team in scoring even a couple different times. It's just impressive. It's nice to see that he can take the load because they inevitable Jalen or Jason or both of them going cold in a game will happen. I know you're enough of a realist to admit that. I don't mean that as a slam against Boston. Every team star player is usually gonna have their cold spell, even if it's and cold spells can be 15 points. It's not like a bad thing. But it's just going to happen. That's just what happens, especially playoffs wearing down. White became the sixth player in playoff history to average 20-plus points. He had great shooting splits. That 50-40-90 mark that everybody loves, just adores in the NBA. He was well above that. Again, sixth player in NBA hit in playoff history to 20-plus points and averaged it was 55-45-90 actually. Porzingis lost. He played through Game 3, correct?
We lost him in Game.
Did he play Game 4? Okay, I can remember off the top of my head. Losing him, I don't think was as
Game 4.
Where the series wasn't as crucial. If that had been at the beginning of the series, maybe you give the Heat another game. I don't think it definitely wasn't a series ender, obviously. And I hope the Heat comes back quickly from his injury. I don't know if it even really, and I think that more is for the conference finals. I don't know if he's necessarily needed for against the Cavs even. It's like if you don't need him back in that series, let him rest, let him get healthy. Get him for the conference finals and hopefully NBA finals. So it was unfortunate that he was lost, but at least it wasn't Jalen, at least it wasn't Jason.
Right.
But Derek White, stepping up. I thought I'd written down here too, but I feel like they won every game by double digits or close to it.
Yep.
Maybe almost 20 a couple games, but it's like they won, but they dominated. We talked about that the last time we talked basketball. Basketball. Boston ball. There we go. That's where I'm going. We talked about the last time, of like, Boston being afraid of maybe playing down to the Heat a little bit, and teams tend to do that when they're doing well, will play down to their opponent and stuff. They didn't play down to the Miami, I felt at all.
Nope.
Outside of maybe even that loss, but even that loss wasn't that big of a loss. If I remember the score correctly. Thoroughly impressed with that. I think a good showing for the Celtics. They got it over. They got it over quick. Get to rest. They're playing the Cavs now, but I think that was what was really important. You didn't want Miami to take it 6 or 7. You don't want your guys to be gassed already. You got to be ready for Cavs Magic, whoever's going to come out of that one. You want to be ready for that team because both teams are young, want to prove it. And we'll talk about that series obviously in a little bit. But to me, it's just nice to see. It was nice to see the Celtics just win that series decisively, get some rest, and just look at the long haul, but show how dominant they can be again. Drew didn't have to do too much. He played his role. Derek White stepping up. So all around just great showing. And as of right now, they're as well as the cream of the crop of anybody in the playoffs right now. I don't know what their odds were at the beginning of the playoffs, but considering what the Nuggets are doing right now over in the Western Conference, they're the head and shoulders above outside of in the East. Well, not in the East. I think they are the one team to beat now. I would have said at the beginning of the playoffs that the teams to beat are the Celtics and Nuggets. Now to me, it's the Celtics.
Fair enough. I didn't know that about Derek White, so that's cool with the 55, 45, 90 splits. It doesn't shock me. He is father, so it's a good, awesome to have him on the team, and man, it's nice to have somebody on the Celtics that you can truly count on every game to be there and to put up numbers and to have a positive impact. So obviously my thoughts, wonderful to see the Heat get eliminated. I think honestly that's what I felt more than anything, and I think any true Celtics fan over the last 5 years would tell you the same thing, that the only reason why we woke up in the mornings was to murder the Heat and their dreams. Because at this point, like, the Heat without Jimmy Butler, they were an elderly dog without any teeth trying to bite you. Like, it just wasn't like, is it annoying? Is it pesky? Do they every once in a while, nibble on your nose a little bit because they jumped on you and they surprised you a little bit? Yes. But at the end of the day, they're a toothless old dog, and they got put down. And that's how that went. And that's how it should have been. That's how it needed to be. And I'm very glad that they were able to take care of it in 5, because if they did not take care of it in 5, then there was actually a legitimate chance that the Celtics could have lost that series, which is bananas. If they had lost Game 5 and then had to go back to Miami, and then anything can happen in Game 7. You never know. So it's just one of those things where they took care of business. They had to, and it was good. Derek White is, I know we already talked about him a couple times here, but he's the best player on the Celtics right now on a consistent basis in the playoffs, and I think that is a really good thing, obviously, for the Celtics, but I think that it is a real breath of fresh air and sigh of relief for Celtics fans. All anybody wants to talk about, even today, we beat the Cavs by 25 points and we didn't play our best. That's what people should be saying. Man, the Celtics kind of had like a B- performance, and they put a whooping on the Cavs. And you know what everybody talks about? that Jason Tatum didn't shoot the ball great. They don't talk about how Jaylen Brown scored 32 or Derek White had another fantastic game or how
25.
Jason Tatum had 11 rebounds and 2 blocks and 2 steals and all the other 3 blocks, excuse me, all the other amazing things that he did. It's just, oh no, Jason Tatum is a stinky, horrible player and everyone in the league is better than him. That's all anybody wants to talk about this morning, and it makes me very angry, but I'm going to leave it there. The only thing that people talk about is how the Celtics superstars don't step up in the playoffs and how they're not tough, how they're not, they're not gritty. They don't know how to win in big games. Jason Tatum's a choke artist. Jaylen Brown only uses one hand, and every time the ball touches his left hand, it disappears into the ether of the universe and somehow ends up in the opponent's basket afterwards. Like, that's all anybody ever wants to talk about. So it's nice for them to, first of all, and most importantly, go out there and show that they're tough. Go out there and not take any of Miami Heat's garbage. There was I don't remember which game it was, if it was game 1 or 2, but I know it was in Boston, where one of the first plays of the game, Al Horford is setting, I think it was game 5, Al Horford is setting a screen. He's just standing there setting a screen on Bam Adebayo. And Bam Adebayo literally just runs up to Al Horford and shoves him full arm extension, 2 hands, and Al Horford just falls to the ground, and the referees go, that's clean. Like, they're just like, nothing, we don't care, just, you could die for all we care, and we're not going to call a foul because you're the Celtics, and that's how it works. So, like, I'm looking at that, and it's so great to see us not give a crap about any of that, and just take it and give it right back. Like, that's what made me happy more than anything was, I mean, they tried everything. I mean, they I'm not going to say there were any dirty plays because there really weren't, but there was a lot of chippiness, and obviously Caleb Martin and Jason Tatum getting into it, and with the hard foul, and Bam Adebayo doing what he does and being an agitator, and like that's what the Miami Heat were. Again, they were an old elderly dog that was really annoying, that couldn't really bite you. But, oh, God, get away from me, you weirdo, gosh. Like, that's really what it was like, and to smack them around like that was fun. Now, in terms of, what you were talking about with us being the favorite, I think, obviously, on paper, we're probably the favorite. But, man, I will talk about this more, obviously, as this video goes along, but I'm so amazed with Minnesota right now. Yes. We know that Rudy Gobert and Kat have each been terrible in the playoffs through their whole career. I don't know what they're doing differently this year. I don't know what they've figured out. I don't know, exactly what's happened, but they have figured something out over there in Minnesota. Now, obviously, it helps when Kat's not the guy, because he's been the guy for the last 7 or 8 years, however long it's been since he's been drafted. Yep. And this year, clearly Anthony Edwards is the guy. And he should be the guy. People said that 3 years ago when he got drafted, and as a rookie, they were like, he should be the number 1. It's like, all right, relax. But not yet, but obviously at some point he probably will be, and he is now. So that helps, I'm sure. Takes a little bit of pressure off of Kat, but man, I'm so impressed with them. And knowing the way that we've had to play against them in the regular season, if it's like that in the playoffs, oh man, I'm gonna have a heart attack every game in that finals, because we played them twice. Overtime in Minnesota the first time, Minnesota won. Second time we played them in Boston, overtime, Boston won. So literally 2 games, 2 overtime games, both won by the home team. Right, yeah, exactly. But like, it's just, oh man, they were just heart attack inducing games. Like, they were just chippy and defensive battles, and nobody was shooting the ball well. And then in the fourth quarter and overtime, Jason Tatum, who's obviously the superstar on the Celtics, took over in Boston, and Anthony Edwards, who's the superstar in Minnesota, took over in the fourth quarter and overtime in the other one. Oh, God, it's going to be horrible. But we're not there yet, obviously. Celtics got to get through the Cavs. They got to get through the whoever is the Knicks or the Pacers left. And really, to me, I know everybody's giving the edge to the Knicks. I think it's honestly a toss-up. With the way I was so impressed with how Indiana played in Game 1. I know they fell short. I know Tyrese Halliburton is still playing very poorly and shooting the ball very poorly, but I love what they're doing out there in Indiana. And even if they lose this series, the future's so bright over there. But we'll get into all that later. Back to the Celtics. Losing Porzingis sucks, clearly. gosh, my life flashed before my eyes. I mean, everything that you like all off season with all on paper and all the resting and all the all the scares and all the big games and all the everything is just flashing before your eyes because you're all leading up to the playoffs. Nothing in the regular season matters in Boston right now. Nothing. We could win. We could go 82-0. And all anybody's going to be is like, yeah, but are they even good? Are they even good? Because I don't think they're good. Like, that's the way it's going to be. And that's, excuse me, that's fair. Like, I get it. I know why people say that. So, like, KP goes down, and you're like, well, he tore his Achilles. There goes that. We're not winning a championship this year. And, it really sucks. We're going to be in cap hell for the rest of our lives. And so, who knows who's even going to be on the team next year? Blah, 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 blah. That's all happening. And then, obviously, comes out it's just a calf strain. He's probably going to come back for the Eastern Conference Finals. Okay, thank goodness. We're going to be okay. But that was scary for sure, but we need him to win a chip. That's abundantly clear. I love Al Horford. He is definitely, if he's not going to be a NBA Hall of Famer, because, I mean, he's never made an All-Star team to my knowledge. Maybe he's made one when he was younger with Atlanta. I don't know, but even if he wins a championship, he's never even been close to MVP. He's barely ever been an all-star, right? He's always been a complimentary piece. Is that guy going to go into the Hall of Fame? I don't know. But he should definitely, if the Celtics win a championship with him on the team, he better be going into the Celtics Hall of Fame because he is one of the most important, impactful Celtics that has ever been at this point. And so I love him, but especially if we have to go up against Minnesota or Denver in the finals, I love you, Al, but you're going to get murdered if he's the starting center. Playing 25 minutes a night, and then the other 23 minutes is going to Luke Cornett. Look, Luke Cornett's playing great. He's doing awesome. I have nothing bad to say about Luke Cornett. But Jokic is going to eat him alive. Or Cat's going to eat him alive. Like, there's no, sorry, it just is. If we were facing, we got kind of lucky where, Jared Allen's hurt. And then, Miles Turner, sure, is good, but then if we played New York, we'd face Isaiah Hartenstein. He's not exactly a versatile offensive weapon.
Yeah.
So, we got lucky that if Al has to play all these games, he's not facing Joel Embiid or, somebody like that that's going to just, he plays really well against Joel Embiid, but regardless, somebody of that caliber for now. But KP's got to come back for us to win a championship, so hopefully he stays healthy. And I have a million other things I could say about the Celtics, but I've already said enough. Very happy with how things are going right now, especially in the first round, and I'm sure we'll get into second round stuff a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But we can move on for now. Speaking of who the Celtics are playing in the second round, Cavs Magic's up next.
Yeah, that was a fun matchup. Good games. Donovan Mitchell definitely carried that team.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. No road team won that series.
Yeah,
all the home teams won.
Yep.
Which is saying something, especially since Cavs pretty much almost gave some away. Then they decided to finally play 4 or 5 minutes left in the first half. And it was we'll finally play, and they came back from 18-1 the game. Mitchell put up 50 in Game 6. That was impressive there. He just now that Jared Allen is hurt though, it's he's got basically nobody out there. You got Evan Mobley or Darius Garland. Okay. Derek White and Drew Holiday are gonna eat him alive.
Oh yeah.
The rest of this series.
Yeah.
But props to Cleveland playing out what they're doing right now though. Props to Orlando at the same time. With the Cavs, Magic, Knicks, all young teams, young promising teams, a lot of potential there. Milwaukee's kind of the old hat right now. They got all the old guys. They're good. Giannis is great. You're one of the best players. And you got Dame time, but it's just Milwaukee's no longer the clear-cut number 2 team in the Eastern Conference now. You got these 3 really good young teams that theoretically should only get better. Now Orlando likes to pull it up every 3 or 4 years, so who knows about Orlando here in another couple years? But theoretically, you got 3 really good young good teams.
Did you put Indiana in there? I didn't.
Indiana should be in there too.
Okay,
Yeah. So
I couldn't.
I didn't.
Four
I
really young good teams.
Yeah. So you're middle. The top of the East is young and exciting right now. And again, Boston, I think, still had their shoulders above everybody, but Milwaukee's got to kind of look out for that number 2 spot that they've essentially exchanged with the Celtics last 5-6 years. But given the current trajectory of everything right now, it's like it's Celtics and everybody else, and then like 5 teams battle for number 2. Like Milwaukee's got to watch their back and figure out how to get younger quicker, or Milwaukee guys to figure out how to get younger very soon.
Yeah, and I'll talk more about this obviously when we get to that series, but I've looked into their cap and everything. I don't think they can. I don't think they. I literally think it's impossible for them to get.
Giannis probably has a Giannis has probably a supermax. I'm sure Dame has
a supermax.
Yeah,
Giannis is a supermax.
So I mean, we saw that time and again with LeBron and his teams. It's like. Or even Golden State, you give 2 supermax contracts, you don't get a lot of room to move with.
Yeah, so you better hit on your other contracts. And right now they're giving it to Bobby Portis, Brooke Lopez,
Pat Beverly.
Oh, don't even get me started on Pat
No,
Beverly.
I don't. We won't touch that. I don't plan to touch that anyway. But yikes. But yeah, no. I mean, I think the series is all. It was fun to see that go 7 games. Props to Cleveland. Doing well.
Chris Middleton, by the way, I don't know how I forgot.
Yeah,
how good he was. I mean, he it was not his fault they lost. He was fantastic.
Yeah, he did everything he humanly could in that series. Cavs, I think it's the first series that they've won since LeBron.
Yep, and I'm very happy for him. Obviously, I picked Magic in 7. And I'll tell you what, all the way up until 5 minutes left in the first half, I felt really darn good about that pick. They were up by 18 in Game 7 in Cleveland. And, they just weren't ready. They weren't ready for that moment just yet, but they're going to be soon. Orlando is coming, and their defense is legit.
Yeah.
Their offense is going to get more. As soon as they figure out that, as soon as Paolo and Franz figure out, man, if I could just shoot 35% from 3 instead of 29. Oh my. As soon as those guys can spread the floor and be legit threats from 3 consistently, it's over. With that defense, forget it. And that's why I thought that they would, maybe step up a little bit, hit just enough shots to be a kind of anemically offensively anemic Cavs team. Yeah. Just didn't happen, but I still feel really good about picking that. I'm not upset about it at all. I easily could have seen it going the other way, of course. So, but I was really high on the Cavs to open up the season. I had them as my number 2 seed going into the year. I am a huge fan of Darius Garland. I'm an even bigger fan of Evan Mobley. I do not think that man gets talked about enough with how good of a basketball player he is. Obviously, he's a little bit more limited offensively than what I would have hoped when he came into the league. I mean, he came in like a house of fire. And he hasn't gotten much better since then, but that still means he's a really good player.
Yeah. So he does a lot of other things well.
Yeah, he does. He's obviously a great interior defender, good finisher inside. But again, stepping out and hitting threes, he can do it a tiny bit, but not very much. Not a great passer. So there's some weaknesses in his game for sure, but I just like him a lot. Obviously, I already talked about Darius Garland. We all know how good Donovan Mitchell is. That's not a secret to anybody who watches basketball. He's been one of the most underrated players in the NBA for years. Max Strus is a great piece of, a ghost of Celtics past, coming out there. One of the Celtic killers in the NBA. There's Max Strus, there's Chris Middleton, and then there's Karis LeVert. That guy, I think, last time he scored more than 30 points was against the Celtics, and it was 44 points just on a random Tuesday. He's just I'm the best player in the NBA. You're welcome. That's just what he does. He plays well against the Celtics. And George Niang is the most annoyingly weird and bad basketball player, but why is he so good at the same time? Basketball player I've ever seen in my life. So they've got some good pieces out there. They did a really good job in the offseason. Obviously, we could talk about Jared Allen till we're blue in the face in terms of the injury. Don't really know what's going on with that. It seemed like it was
ribs. That's all.
Yeah, it seemed like it was relatively minor. He's out for Game 6. He's day to day. He'll be fine. I figured he'd be back for Game 7. Really thought the Cavs were going to lose when he was listed out for Game 7. Obviously, didn't happen. kind of figured he'd play game 1 against the Celtics. Didn't happen, and then I don't know if you watched the game, but they said that, like, he's still not sleeping. Like, he can't really breathe much. Like, it doesn't seem to be... No, it doesn't. So we don't know exactly what the issue is. They keep saying it's a rib contusion, which is a deep tissue bruise in the ribs, but to me, it doesn't... I don't know. I've had rib contusions before. I obviously played baseball. I've been hit by plenty of pitches that went, in between the ribs. It had you a nice big old bruise or getting a knee to the back when you're sliding into first base on a pickoff throw or something. Like, you just never know. I've had those, and they're not fun, but I've never seen a guy with bruised ribs have so much issue, because it's been, 2.5 weeks for a bruise? I mean, it seems a lot more serious. If they still don't know when he's coming back, he might not come back for the series. I mean, who knows? I mean, that seems a bit extreme. But we all know how good he's been. He's averaging about 17 and 11 this year. Without him, their offense really struggles. They don't have really much of a presence inside. Obviously, Mobley's a good offensive rebounder, but when they're both out there, it's obviously a much bigger threat. So, I was really high on the Cavs. So, I'm sure we'll talk about Cavs Celtics later, but I'm scared of the Cavs. I'm a lot higher on the Cavs than most other people. It makes me very angry when I hear Celtics people saying the Cavs have zero chance in this series. I don't even think they're going to win one game, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. I will say this right now. I know I'll talk about it later, but I'm picking Celtics in 7. Like, I genuinely, that's how terrified of the Cavs I am. Because as soon as Darius Garland realizes that he could score 30 points a night in the NBA, he's going to just bing, 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 bing. Like, he has... Like, if somebody could just grab Darius Garland and say, you do know you're faster than everybody on the court and you have a quicker release than anybody in the league, right? Oh, yeah. Like, he'll just sprint around everyone and throw up a shot with 5 people around him and hit them. Like, he's capable of that. I've seen him do it. He just hasn't been able to do it consistently for whatever reason. But if somebody can just get a hold of him and wake him up, that's scary. So, like... I'm scared of the Cavs more than other people.
Fair enough.
Maybe just because I'm a Celtics fan and I have PTSD from us losing to worse teams. I don't know. But I was really high on the Cavs. And plus, whenever you've got a guy like Donovan Mitchell, he's an alpha. He's a guy that genuinely, even last night in a 25-point game, I'm screaming, how are you making this? How are you doing this? What is wrong with you as I drop things out of my pocket because of anger? But, like, even in a 25-point loss, when we're up by, 18, and he hits a layup over 3 other people somehow, and you're just like, we can't stop him. This is ridiculous. Well, you won by 25, relax. But I can't relax because whenever you got a guy like that, I don't care if you're up by 30. A guy like that can crack his knuckles, crack his neck, and go, I'm not missing, you're not scoring, here we go.
And
like,
that's just literally no lead that's safe anymore in the NBA.
No.
Like, you almost have to be up by 40 to be like, okay.
Yep.
And if you're up at 40 halfway through the third, it's probably still going to be down to 18 by the end of the game.
Yep, exactly. And so, I'm scared of the Cavs more than other people are. You could call me silly if you want to, people in the comment section, or you, Dan. I don't really care. I would rather overestimate the Cavs and be wrong than underestimate them and look up and it's 3-3 and it's game 7 and they've got Donovan Mitchell who's going to go, all right, ready for me to score 75 points and you not be able to stop me? Here we go.
Like, he could have scored 75.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he can, because I'm pretty sure he has before. Like, that's really a thing that's happened before.
He loves to put up those 50 burgers. He puts up 50 burgers a lot.
So, but, right now, looking at it, they don't have much that's consistent. I'm not saying they don't have much that's capable. I'm saying they don't have much that's consistent. We saw Evan Mobley scored 17 points last night. One of his best offensive games in the last month. Now, obviously, I think 12 of those points were in, the last 7 minutes of the fourth quarter, so, how much of that really matters? But still, I think I'm scared of the Cavs, just more than other people. We can leave it at that.
Knicks and Sixers. To me, that was almost the best.
Six and Knicksers, here we go.
That was the best series of the Eastern Conference, if not the whole first round, honestly.
Eastern Conference, yes, for sure. I would agree. Well, I don't know. Cavs Magic was pretty fun.
I mean, the Knicks and Sixers just don't. They don't care how much they hate each other because they hate each other. And
they do.
It's
a good time.
I was able to watch more of this series probably than majority of the other series. Honestly, just the way it's kind of it worked out. And so what I was viewing.
They played a lot of their games at like 7:30.
Yeah, so it was a little easier to watch them. But that New York crowd, man, they first possession of the game, defense. Oh man, I thought this series was gonna. I don't remember what we picked for this series.
I picked Knicks in 7. I know that.
I did 6-7. I don't remember exactly either. But after Maxey had his game 5 heroics, I thought this series like going 7. It was going to go like triple overtime in game 7. Like that's how and that's where the series was trending. It's there's 3 games decided in the final 30 seconds of the game. It's just. It was just so entertaining. One thing I came across that I had to throw out here. One of your fun facts for the night. The composite score of the series was 659 points to 649 points in favor of the Knicks.
So only 10 points separated them?
1 point. 650 to 650.
Oh, 650. I think you said 659 to 6. I'm sorry.
650.
Misheard you.
Yeah.
Okay. One point in 6 games.
Yeah.
Wow.
5th time in nearly 300 series in the NBA playoffs since 2004, 2005. That the total score has been.
And that's the 2-7. Like that's not the 4-5. That's the 2-7.
Before it's like the Sixers were a scary number 7 seed because they just got Joel Embiid back. Embiid put up 3,500 points every single night.
Felt like it. Well, you know what? I'm going to say this before you finish your thought. He played so bad in Game 5. Joel Embiid. So poorly. He had 11 turnovers. He shot, I think, 36% from the field. And it wasn't even that I wanted the Sixers to lose the series. Just because I hate the Sixers. It wasn't even that. It was, I want them to lose tonight. To lose the series because, my God, I want everybody to finally realize that it's Joel Embiid's fault that they're this bad. Like, please. But instead, of course, Tyrese Maxey saved them and had to drop 50 freaking points just to override it. And then, of course, Joel Embiid drops 38 points in Game 6, and it's not his fault, just like it is every year. And everybody thinks, oh, it's just, everybody else's fault. It's not Joel Embiid's fault. No, it's Joel Embiid's fault. How many times has Jason Tatum been blamed for the Celtics losing in the Eastern Conference Finals? 100% of the time. Joel Embiid hasn't even gotten that far in the same amount of time. And he's lost to Jason Tatum most of those years. And yet nobody says, man, Joel Embiid kind of sucks in the playoffs, doesn't he? Because he fools everyone by putting up empty stats.
He's got 300 MVP awards, too.
He's only got 1 MVP award.
Okay. He's been like that top 2, 5.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody's.
That's why I thought he had more than 1.
Everybody's fooled. I'm not fooled because look. Here's the way I look at it. I call it Terrell Owens syndrome. Okay. Here's why. Terrell Owens had problems with coaches and teammates in every single team that he was on.
You're really making me relive one of the worst moments in that Packers history.
I sure am. Yes. I didn't say that game. That's your fault.
But I mean, it's what comes out immediately.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
I'm not sorry. But if you, the point is that if I guess it's possible that Terrell Owens was the innocent party 5 times. Is it likely? Probably not. If you have the same problem over and over and over and over and over again, at a certain point you got to look in the mirror and say, all right, I might be the reason why we suck. Well, I'll tell you what, Joel Embiid has gone through now 3 full iterations of all-star, number 2 to 3 to even 1 seed caliber Philadelphia 76ers teams. And you know what they've done every time? That right there. Every single time they've lost over and over and over and over and over again. And who's the one constant? Is it their coach? Is it their supporting cast? The answer is no. The one constant is Joel Embiid. It's not Ben Simmons' fault. It's not Jimmy Butler's fault. It's not JJ Redick's fault. It's not Tobias Harris's fault, even though, my God, did he stink in Game 6. 0 points and you're making $180 million? Get out of me. Is it Buddy Hield's fault for struggling from 3 early on? Is it Tyrese Maxey's fault for last year not being the player he was this year? No, it's Joel Embiid's fault. I don't care. If it's Jason Tatum's fault every time the Celtics lose, it's Joel Embiid's fault every time the Sixers lose. That's the only way it's fair.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
They've had Joel. Yeah. They've never gotten past the Eastern Conference Summits.
Nope. Never have. Never once.
Yeah.
And again, is it all Joel Embiid's fault? Am I putting 100% of the onus on him? Of course not. He's been playing through injury. I mean, this year, I say it almost every year. Him being out there was heroic in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't 100%. He was suffering from Bell's palsy. Just the mental anguish that he probably was going through is heroic. And I commend him for that. Because he is one tough son of a gun. I'm going to give him that. But he's a tough son of a gun whose bones are made of peanut brittle at this point. And that sucks, and we don't like to admit it, but it's true. All that being said, Celtics, if you don't win the championship this year, KP and 2 first-rounders for Joel Embiid. How's that sound?
Might as well, right?
Might as well. Hey, the Sixers have got to blow it up. I mean, you can't not blow it up at this point. You got to get rid of Tobias Harris and Buddy Hield and all these other guys. Bring in a Kevin Durant or somebody else that's going to be, or Donovan Mitchell or somebody like that, and go Tyrese Maxey, trade Joel Embiid, and then just build around everybody else. I think he's got to do it. They're not gonna, and they're gonna lose in the second round next year too. And I'm gonna be like, oh my God, how many years in a row are we gonna do this until you figure the frick out that it's Joel Embiid's fault?
One thing that I couldn't believe a player that was still playing. I texted you, I think, this on one of the games. But how is Nick Batum still out there playing and being a constant contributor?
He was the reason
Charlotte to die.
He was the reason they beat the Heat in the play-in game. He had 26 points.
Maybe that's what I texted you, because I'm like, I thought he went to Charlotte and died after he left there.
No, he went to Charlotte, acted like he was dead, and then as soon as he went back to the Clippers, he went, you guys are good? All right, I'll play well.
Yeah, I forgot he had that.
Yeah, and then he was really good again, and then the Sixers traded for him, and I'll tell you, he's a perfect fit over there. I think he should stick around. I think he should retire there. He's a perfect fit.
He's perfect off the bench for him.
Yeah.
Perfect off the bench to play in the wing. He knows how to play in the wing. He's always been a good wing defender. And what do you need in the NBA? You need good wings, you need good wing defenders. Yeah. He's not a great wing offensively, but he's great off the bench, and he can be a strong defender still. But I thought he went to Charlotte and died, so I was like, yeah, he still plays.
And I hope the NBA learned that Kelly Oubre should not be a minimum player at this point. Again,
that's another one too.
If you do it to him 2 years in a row, I'm gonna scream, because that guy can drop 25 points a night if you let him.
I was disappointed when again, Charlotte can't hang on anybody because it's Charlotte, and nobody wants to come to Charlotte or stay in Charlotte, which I don't blame them. That's why the Charlotte's always going to be a bottom 12 team in the league every single year, no matter how many promising players they can get.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, when they signed him, Oubre was going off for a while there when Rozier was healthy, and it was either Rozier for a 3 to win the game or Oubre for a 3 to win the game for the Hornets 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so I saw Oubre popped up. I was like, Charlotte, do you just not know how to do anything with the players you can keep? Because here's 2 guys in the playoffs that But Batum was always a mistake. That was a contract mistake from the very beginning.
The fact that the league let Philly sign him to a minimum contract, I think, was just crazy. So that better not happen again this offseason. He should get a nice, 10 to 12 to 15 to even $18 million contract a year for, somebody. I'd like to see him go to a Detroit. Just somebody that needs some offensive help, Somebody like that, or if the Timberwolves can afford the guy, a team like that needs a little bit more scoring off their bench, or heck, I'd even like to see him. It's
Thunder.
Horrible. Thunder might be. Yeah, the Thunder
Spurs,
good offense.
You know?
Yeah, Spurs, that wouldn't be bad. But I was honestly thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be something if he went to Denver?
I'll think
off their bench.
As soon as you were
just give them something off their bench to be able to kind of build around. But anyway,
I don't know. You could almost maybe carve out a starting role in Denver. I think.
I think KCP's got it on lock at the 2. I think your starting 5's pretty solidified, just with the way that they know how to play with each other.
Yeah.
And the chemistry there. But I think off the bench, like if Kelly Oubre's your 6th man getting 25 minutes a night, and he's got the ball in his hands. Yeah. I think that's a great move. But regardless, getting into the actual series here. Fantastic series with the Knicks and the Sixers. They were fantastic. They were the
Physical.
best. They were the best games to watch.
Physical, but everybody would push each other down and get right back up and be like, "Let's go, let's go." It was like haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. The Knicks would play a slow pace, and then all of a sudden you just see them blitz down the course like. They would do that back and forth. They did that with the Pacers even in the game.
And I'll tell you what, I know that they're quote running out of players, right? The Knicks are just they've just been killed with injuries.
Brunson don't care.
Brunson does not care. I know they just lost Mitch Robb. It said 6 to 8 weeks. Is there even 6 to 8 weeks left? Because they said he's going to be reevaluated in 6 to 8 weeks. Like, is that?
I mean, NBA Finals ends somewhere close to Father's Day, so yeah, 6 weeks.
Okay, I mean, so maybe he'd come back for Game 7 of the Finals if they made it there.
Game 3
essentially,
or 4, maybe.
Right. Essentially, he's out for the entirety of the rest of the year unless they make the NBA Finals and they get into Game 5, 6, 7, and everything works out perfect for Mitch Robb at this point. So I'm kind of acting like he's out for the year. If I'm wrong, whatever. They were playing 7 guys with Mitchell Robinson. Like, they were playing the starting 5, Miles McBride and Mitch Robb. Josh Hart and Anunoby and all those other wings were not getting any rest. Barely at all. Now, maybe they were playing one other guy, and I'm forgetting who it is. But DiVincenzo really wasn't coming out. Brunson obviously wasn't really coming out. Like, these guys are all playing 43 to 45 minutes a night. Now, look, I can look at it 2 ways. One, yeah, that means that when the chips are down and everybody's tired, the Knicks have an advantage. They're very well conditioned. But at the same time, when you're in boxing matches every night that are going 12 rounds each, and then suddenly you got to go up against a juggernaut, which we're all assuming if they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals, they're going up against Boston, who's going to throw Drew Holiday at you if you're Brunson, Derek White at you if you're Brunson, Jaylen Brown at you if you're Brunson.
Oh, man, that's going to be so much fun.
Off the bench, a very game Peyton Pritchard, who, is he the best, like, body-wise defender? No, but he's quick. He can keep up with you, and he's freaking annoying. Like, he just stays in your space.
That's all you need for a guy off the bench.
Exactly. So, like, are they going to have enough left in the tank to like play 45 minutes a night every single game and play against Boston, who can beat you in a multitude of ways, scoring in the post, scoring inside, shooting 53s a game, just being the best defensive team in the NBA at times outside of Minnesota? Like, do they have enough? I don't know. Or is that what they need?
Yeah. And I mean, I'm actually, I don't want to go too much in that. I mean, I don't mind going back and forth into the second round here. Yeah. The Pacers are like the fastest paced team in the NBA. The Knicks are the total opposite. So even if you're just thinking of this series alone, that series alone is like,
the Pacers are going to try to run the Knicks off the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if they do make it through, like you said, it's like you go up against Boston and it's like, we're here.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
I genuinely think that, and I'll just say this right now, I still think the Knicks, just because they're so tough, are gonna somehow find a way to win this series in 7. I don't see a way for the Knicks to win in Indiana outside of Indiana completely collapsing. Because it's one thing to be able to keep up with Indiana and barely squeak out wins when you're in New York City. When your fans are giving you energy. When your fans are there for you and they're cheering every time you do something good. Every time you get a turnover or a big dunk, it's like, yes! It gives you that adrenaline
That
rush.
crowd was so fun.
But Indiana's crowd? They're rabid. They're rabid just like New York is. And I don't see how when you're playing that many minutes against a team that is just pure, I'm going to sprint all game.
And they're deep.
Exactly. And like everybody on their team does it. They
have a second unit.
And everybody on their team does it. I don't see how the Knicks win in Indiana outside of the Indiana Pacers just like missing every open three-point shot that they have and blowing easy layups and like fouling like crazy. Like, I don't know how they do it, genuinely speaking. I still think the Knicks are going to somehow find a way to win all 4 games in New York, but I would count their lucky stars. If this is how they're going to play, they better count their lucky stars that they were able to just at the end of the year separate themselves just enough to keep that 2 seed. Because I think if this was in Indiana, they'd lose this series.
Yeah, it's just, and then in a sense we're like halfway gift wrapped that second seed because Milwaukee just like didn't care the last 3 weeks of the season. Yeah, Giannis was out, but that was fortunate for them too.
Yep. Yeah, because otherwise they would have had to face Indiana in the first round.
Yeah.
And man, they're just a tough matchup for anybody right now. But yeah, great series with the Knicks and Sixers. And speaking of the Pacers, obviously Pacers Bucks. I very boldly called a sweep. Obviously, that did not happen. The Bucks went out there and murdered the Pacers in Game 1, and I went, "Oh boy,
what are we in for?
Oh no!" Like we're
a non-Giannis.
That was But the scary part was Damian Lillard scored 35 points in the first half of Game 1, and I went, "Oh dear, this is not good." But then I remembered, man, this reminds me a lot of what happened in the bubble. Damian Lillard's dropped like 55 points in the first game, and I went, oh man, the Blazers are definitely going to beat the Lakers. And then they lost 4 straight to the Lakers. And then guess what happened? The Bucks, they didn't lose 4 straight, but they lost 4 to 5 after that. And the only game that they won, by the way, was without Dame. So
the Bucks are a confusing team. It's like obviously we've seen Dame carry teams to a win so easily for so long in Portland, but then you go out and win a game without him, with Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis Jr. and Brook Lopez still.
Well, when the guys are out, Brook Lopez, I think, is very underrated offensively. I know we all think of him as a perennial Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Everything like that.
He's a big man that can shoot the 3
but he can shoot it very well. He didn't shoot it very efficiently in the regular season, but when he's given a lot of opportunities, when he's given the green light to be aggressive, he can make a lot of shots. I've seen it plenty of times. The Celtics have faced the Bucks multiple times in the playoffs, and he drives me nuts.
Just a few times.
Right. So, I didn't... Obviously, if you're the Pacers, it was probably very frustrating. But at the very least, you knew, well, all right, we're going to go back home, and we got our crowd, and we know that we're better than them when we're at home. So, that was, it wasn't the earth-shattering, but it didn't surprise me at all that the Bucks actually beat them without Giannis and Dame, because there's a whole kind of thing
they have good veterans that know how to win.
That, but also, if you kind of look back, it kind of reminds me of Memphis a couple years ago. They were better without Ja Morant record-wise, and they played crisper, more efficient basketball without Ja Morant. Does that mean Ja Morant's a bad player? No. Does that mean Ja Morant's not their best player? Absolutely not. He definitely is and was back then. But when you have one guy that the entire offense revolves around, if he has an inefficient night, your offense has an inefficient night. That's how it works. It's how it happens with all ball-dominant guys. Kobe Bryant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. That's how it happens with all those guys. Damian Lillard's no different. When you've got a guy like that, that's just, I need the ball all the time. If he's having an on night and he's scoring 35 points in the first half, you're going to score 130 points and destroy everybody because you can set your defense and you could basically just do whatever you want. You're limiting transition. Like, you can do all that. But when he's not on, then you're giving up transition buckets. You can't set your defense. You're going to struggle. in those games. So it doesn't surprise me at all that when Dame was out, they could set their defense a little bit more. First of all, their defense was better just because Dame's not a good defender. You can set your defense not in transition when you're putting the ball in the basket. You can get back and kind of play the half court against Indiana. And as good as Indiana is in the half court, they're not
right.
They're not
great. Slow a team like that down.
Yeah, if you slow them down, they struggle. So that played into their favor. And obviously, Chris Middleton scoring 48 points or whatever it was helps. Like, he put the ball in the bucket all the time for them. That worked out. So didn't shock me at all. Again, does that mean that the Bucks are better without Giannis and Dame? Of course it doesn't. But in an isolated
isolated game in a series where it's like Indiana's kind of like, who do we game plan for here?
Yep.
Why can be like everybody?
Yeah, exactly. And going into the Pacers, like, I know I talked about it already. Oh God, I was so glad they didn't make the play-in. I would have rather faced Philadelphia 15 years in a row than face Indiana in the first round. Because, like, it's just they're just one of those teams that just annoy the crap out of you. And they run. And plus, Aaron Nesmith, like, he used to play for the Celtics, and so, like, he just goes in there. And sometimes he plays terrible. It's not even that he plays amazing every time. He just annoys the heck out of me. Like, he just is very annoying, and that's a good thing. Like, I'm not knocking the guy. Good for you. You found a home. Awesome. Happy for you. But geez, like, they are something else. And if you're a Pacers fan, I don't care if you lose the series against the Knicks. Now, obviously, if you get swept, that's a different story. But I don't care if you lose the series against the Knicks. You gotta feel good about your future if you're Indy.
Again, they're deep. Obi Toppin had a couple good games off the bench, but I mean, the Pacers are easily 7, if not 8 people deep in that bench. Anybody from the starting 5, I think multiple people stepped up and carried the Pacers every night in the starting 5, because Halliburton wasn't efficient. Now Halliburton runs the offense too, and he can rely on those other guys. But Halliburton didn't have to always take over the game. Most games, he contributed in other ways, but I felt like that offense doesn't seem to be fully revolving around 1 or 2 central players like most of the offenses in the playoffs do right now.
Right. I mean, Pascal Siakam, I think, is clearly the alpha offensively for them right now.
Yeah, I think he put up like almost 30 at least every game.
Yep. So I would say that he's probably your main guy. And if anything, just because Tyrese is struggling. Halliburton lost his shot after the All-Star break, and he has not found it yet. And so I hope that that's not a permanent fixture like it was for Russell Westbrook. It was like, oh, he's just struggling. Oh, it's been 5 years. That's rough. So like I hope that doesn't happen to Tyrese, because obviously I've talked to you about it. I've said it on the channel many times. I am in love with Tyrese Halliburton. I think genuinely he could be the best point guard in the NBA at some point. So. Hopefully he turns it around, but maybe not this year in the playoffs, because I'd not like to face them if he's gonna score 30 a night and Pascal Siakam's gonna score 30 a night. It's just that's gonna be a tough team to play.
And one more thing I thought was interesting with the scores. Again, very surface here, but Indiana. I mean, they get in that 115, 120 point range. I mean, they're probably winning that game. But if you can limit their offense, you can keep, those alpha guys to minimal points. Keep them under 100 points. Milwaukee won both those games. That they kept them under 100 points. So, it's they didn't hit the 120 point threshold against the Knicks, and they lost to get in the first game against the Knicks. So maybe that's the recipe. Don't let them score 120 points and you win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to be like that every game. I think certainly that game was
a little bit here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's the same way with the Celtics, right? If you can hold them to under 100 points somehow, you have a really good chance of beating them. But Pacers, obviously defensively, they're not nearly as dangerous as they are offensively. They've got some really good defenders individually on that team: Siakam, Turner, T.J. McConnell. But even Aaron Nesmith is a pretty decent defender as well. But like Obi Toppin, not really. Halliburton, he's long and lengthy, but he's not the best defender in the world. And who's the 2? Oh, who's the 2? It was always Buddy Hield. or that other kid, the young Benedict Mathurin, but it's not either of them because I think Matherin's hurt, and obviously Buddy Hield's on the Sixers. Who's playing there too right now? Oh my gosh, why am I drawing such a hard blank on life right now?
That's fine.
But anyway, point being, the Pacers. I know that the consensus is like, oh well, the NBA wants Celtics, Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals because it's the two big market teams and it's the two old school teams. I think it'd be a much better, not better series because I think it's going to be 7 if we play the Knicks. But I think it's going to be a more entertaining series game to game if we play the Pacers. Because I watched all 5 games against the Pacers this year that we played. That game against them in the in-season tournament was electric. And the Pacers ended up winning that game because they made every shot from Kingdom Come. Like, they couldn't miss
anything at the beginning of the season.
Right,
like,
so they just were nuts. But unfortunately, and then the other couple of games were, 2 other games were really close, and I think the Pacers ended up winning one because the referees decided that the Pacers were going to win that game. No, I'm not joking. And then the other one, the Celtics ended up winning a close one. But the other 2 games 4 and 5, or I think it was 2 and 5 technically, the Celtics won by like 50. Like, they just went out and just put a sledgehammer to their head. Like, just not good. So, who knows? But Pacers Bucks was, I think it went about where I thought it was gonna. I did predict a sweep. It didn't happen, but ultimately they won it.
Let's move over to the West. Nuggets Lakers. I think that was maybe the second biggest surprise of the playoffs to me for a series. More of, I just figured the Lakers were gonna put up a little bit more of the fight. Now each game was close. And I mean, obviously, if Jamal Murray doesn't hit 2 massively insane game-winning shots, that series is turned on its head. And we're looking at probably a 7-game series. But Lakers won a game, but I was expecting them to do a lot better than they did. They just didn't have an answer for Jokic. Yeah, it's. And like I said this earlier, there's no safe lead. We've talked about this a few different times. There's no safe lead in the NBA, and especially against Denver. They know they just have that. It's like, oh, we're down by 20. We're gonna turn it on. I was gonna say the same thing about the Knicks earlier too. It's like I almost feel like they enjoy playing from behind. Yeah, it's like because then they just know, hey, we gotta go crazy. We can't afford every position's key. Every position has to be spectacular.
Yeah, their play style for sure lends them to success if they play from behind. A lot of offensive rebounding, active hands on defense. Yeah. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in the league in terms of taking charges, drawing offensive fouls. Jalen Brunson specifically is one of the best in the NBA at doing that just himself, but obviously as a team as well. Best offensive rebounding team in the league. Definitely lends itself to coming from behind because those momentum plays just pile up and pile up and pile up, and suddenly it's a 4-point game and you're thinking, crap, we should have beat these guys 2 quarters ago. This sucks. So yeah, I agree with you there for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a lot of thoughts on this, other than, I've always rooted for LeBron to go far in the playoffs every year just because it's LeBron. Yeah. You want to see your best player, you want to see the best players go as far as they can. Him and Steph being out before the second round is, this a thing we just aren't used to seeing. But the Western Conference is so insanely competitive. Mm-hmm. It's just gonna happen. That's not a knock against either of those players. It's just the way the matchups fell. So I don't know if you have any extra slots there, but
I actually completely disagree with you on something. I don't think in any world or any universe, regardless of anything, this series was ever going to go 7. I was saying this to a buddy at work who's a Lakers fan. You can ask him. I told him exactly what was going to happen every single game. I said that they would win Game 4, and that would be it. It doesn't matter how many. Look. I didn't say, oh, you're going to be up at halftime every single game and lose. I didn't say that, obviously, but I was like, I don't care if you're up by 15 with 4 minutes left. You're going to find a way to lose because I don't think the Lakers believe they can beat Denver. I don't think, and not necessarily the entirety of the team. I don't think the supporting cast of the Los Angeles Lakers believes that they could be better than the Nuggets. I mean, look at how poorly D'Angelo Russell, Austin Reeves, and Rui Hachimura played. They were useless. They were skeletons the whole time. It was LeBron and AD and nobody else. The one game that they played well, D'Angelo Russell actually showed up a little bit and actually scored like 18 points or something. That was it. That's the only game that they won because he did fine. So, like, for me...
Do you think it was an overreaction for them already to get rid of their coach? After?
100%. Darvin Ham being fired, I think is one of the worst firings that I've seen in quite a while. I think the only one that was weirder that I can think of to me was Dwayne Casey back in 16, 17,
sure.
Whatever year it was, the Celtics were, it was the year that the Celtics were supposed to win the finals. That's every year. The first year that they were supposed to win the finals, when they had Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford, and Terry Rozier, and like that just whole squad of guys. And then they lost Gordon Hayward to a broken leg, and Kyrie Irving to knee surgery and all that stuff, and they were in the play.
Mm-hmm.
So they were the 2 seed that year. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there going, how is Brad Stevens not even in the running for Coach of the Year? His whole team died, and he's the 2 seed. How much better coaching can you get at this point? No, unanimously they gave it to the 1 seed in the East, the Toronto Raptors. You know what happened to the Toronto Raptors? They played the Cavs and got swept in the playoffs again by the Cavs. They got murdered. They had no chance.
Yep.
And then Dwayne Casey got fired. Yes, that's right. The man who unanimously amongst his peers won Coach of the Year got fired that offseason. That's the only one that I found weird. Was like, are you sure he's the best coach in the NBA this year? Because clearly he's not. His own team fired him. Like, did his own team vote for him?
You think the Lakers,
No, they should not have fired Darvin Ham. It was not his fault. They were better this year than they were last year. The only team they lost to in 2 years in the playoffs was Denver. And Denver is still, until they're eliminated, which still may not happen, they're still the reigning champions. So you lost to the reigning champions twice. That's not the coach's fault. That's you ran into a buzzsaw and a team that you just have a bad matchup against. Yeah. Like, that's just not...
Yeah, it was the worst possible matchup for the Lakers.
100%, yeah.
About that,
worst possible matchup. If they played the Thunder in the first round, they'd have probably won. Just because the Thunder struggle at rebounding, and that's something the Lakers are actually really good at.
Yeah, one of the few.
Yeah, so like it's a bad matchup, and it's not Darvin Ham's fault that D'Angelo Russell played just well enough for just long enough to fool the Pelinkas into keeping him for one more year. They were going to trade him at the trade deadline. And you know what he did right around the trade deadline? He started dropping 30 points a night, every night, for like 10 straight games. And they went, oh crap, we can't get rid of him now. He's really good. And then as soon as the trade deadline ended, he sucked again. And then he went to the playoffs and he sucked again. And it's like, well, he fooled you again. That's unfortunate. Like, so it's not his fault. He should have been fired. I think he'll be just fine. He'll find a home somewhere. Either as an assistant or as a head coach. I think he should be a head coach somewhere next.
My biggest surprise of the first round was definitely the Wolves and Suns. I don't think
Me too.
We've already talked about the Wolves a lot, just their defense, never ending, suffocating. Anthony Edwards showed out over 31 points per game. I think he might have been the leading scorer for the playoffs in the first round, or his second. But I'm pretty sure I think he saw the first. And their defense held Phoenix under 100 points twice. They won by at least 12 points in 3 of the 4 wins. I was shocked that if the Wolves are up 2-1, 2-2 or something, I could have seen the Wolves winning, but just an absolute sweep going into Phoenix and winning 2 games. I was just, I think we talked about this the other day before the podcast. It was like Beal was just a huge weak link in that team. And I'll hold that the Phoenix Big 3 experiment is still an experiment. They only had 41 games together. I don't feel you bail on them. I don't feel I don't think you need to make wholesale changes. You don't have a lot of cap room to make a lot of wholesale changes to begin with. But I mean, the Timberwolves just came out there and said, "There's a reason we were contending for the number one seed in this conference." Thank you very much.
And I think both of us and everybody else, quite frankly, they kind of just said, "Oh well, the Timberwolves aren't going to show up in the playoffs. They never show up in the playoffs." And then obviously they have now. And that
you got
is
the ant and cat combination there, so
that's terrifying. I think everybody in the league should be genuinely terrified that the Minnesota Timberwolves have figured something out in the playoffs. Because the fact that we discounted it was almost like I don't see those big red eyes glowing in the dark. No, they're not about that guy. Whatever that is, that's probably I'm just seeing things. That's not a monster ready to kill me.
You know what this team reminds
me of? It's a monster ready to kill you.
You know what this team reminds me of? The Spurs back in their prime pre-Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, well, I mean, even with Kawhi Leonard, you could argue like somebody like a Jaden Daniels is a Kawhi Leonard-esque type player. Because back then, Kawhi was not a scorer.
But when Kawhi hit the team, like Parker and Ginobili were on the downside.
Sure, yeah, that's fair enough.
But either way, like this reminds me of peak Spurs right now.
Sure, and I'll get into Minnesota and everything. I know we've already talked about him a little bit, but. Obviously I picked the Suns, just like most people I think picked the Suns. They dominated the Timberwolves in the regular season, so I felt like they were going to carry it over. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker tend to up their game in the playoffs, and they did. It was not their fault that they lost this series. I guess I kind of forgot who Bradley Beal was, right? You look back at his whole playoff history, he has always underperformed, even in Washington. It was John Wall's team. It always was. John Wall played well in the playoffs. Bradley Beal genuinely and generally didn't. And obviously he played poorly in the playoffs this year. I think a lot of the blame's going to fall on his shoulders. I think there's arguments to be made that their supporting cast needs to be adjusted. They need to kind of put more emphasis on ball distribution in the offseason, whether that's bringing in a backup point guard or whether that's just getting guys that are not just purely ball-dominant players. No. Obviously, Royce O'Neal's not a ball-dominant player. I think he's fine. But I don't know what you do if you're Phoenix. I don't know if you blow it up. I don't know if you run it back because I think genuinely you can't. I don't think you can win either way. I think if you run it back, you're still in the West. You're gonna run into a buzzsaw because next year you're still gonna have a young Timberwolves team that's up and coming, a young Thunder team that's gonna be up and coming. You still have Denver. You have the Clippers. You have the Lakers. You have it just goes the Mavericks. Hopefully will be better next year as well. Like the Kings, the Pelicans, on and on and on and on and on. Like I don't see how Phoenix makes it out of the West ever. Even if it works out with the three of them. So, I just don't see it.
You can't just blow it up after a season where half the season you only got them to play together anyway. So it's like
sure.
You can't. It's like Darvin Ham and the Lakers. You can't just pull the coach out of the water after 2 years because.
Speaking of that, Frank Vogel will be seeing you also. Apparently, it's his fault that the I don't see that.
I think you got to keep the whole thing together there.
No, I know he got fired. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, did he?
I'm pretty sure he already got fired. I'm pretty sure. I might have to look that up. I might be wrong, but
Thunder's Pelicans. Yeah, I mean, I think that might have been the easiest pick in the whole first round.
Yeah. I do want to say something about the Timberwolves, though. I don't see a world where they don't make the finals at this point. I love the Thunder. I've been as big of a Thunder person this year as anybody. I said they'd be the 2 seed at the beginning of the year. I was incorrect because they were better than the 2 seed. I didn't think they'd be that good, clearly. I just thought that they'd be the 2 seed. I was so high on the Thunder. But there is one thing that the Thunder stink at, and it is rebounding. They are bad at rebounding. Really, really bad. In Minnesota, you are literally starting a guy that's 6'10", a guy that's 7 foot, and a guy that's 7'1". There's your rebounding. You don't need to do... The Timberwolves are going to dominate the glass against the Thunder if they make it there, obviously. Yeah. We're assuming a lot of things.
Yeah, we're already jumping a couple rounds.
It's one of those, like, I just don't see a world where they make the finals. Okay, fine. Dallas pulls an upset and beats the Thunder. Really? You think Dallas is going to stay? The Nuggets couldn't stop them at that point. You really think Dallas is going to stop? What's Luka so much better than everybody else on planet Earth that he's going to just put everybody on his back and score 70 points a night against that defense? Forget it. Like, no, I don't see a world where the Timberwolves don't make the finals. And if they make the finals, I'm really interested if they face a team like the Knicks or like the Celtics. Obviously, I'm hoping it's the Celtics, but the Knicks would fit in this as well. I'm interested to see what happens when they play a team that actually will put pressure on them defensively. The Nuggets are not a good defensive team. They are good when they need to be, in spurts, late in games, but they are not consistently a good defensive team. Obviously, the Phoenix Suns are not even... I think they were bottom 5 in defense this year, overall. Somewhere in that range. Mm-hmm. They were bad defensively. Very, very bad. So when you have a team that's going to put pressure on you defensively, is that when you start to see Cat struggle? Is that when you start to see Mike Conley actually miss shots for once? Is that where you... Obviously, I don't think any kind of defense is going to stop Anthony Edwards, but are they going to kind of turn into a better, more defensively versatile version of the Cavs if they play a team that's defensively sound, where Anthony Edwards is the only player that's doing anything, and Jaden Daniels struggles, and Cat struggles, and Gobert struggles, and Conley struggles, and Alexander Walker struggles, and all these other guys that are coming off their bench? Is that what's going to happen? I'm interested to see how that happens in the playoffs for them, because they still are inexperienced. So maybe if they play a team like Boston, who's going to just run you ragged defensively, they might struggle.
But we're jumping ahead 3 rounds.
Of course we are, but I'm just saying, I'm saying I don't see a world where they make it to the finals, to be honest.
Thunder Pelicans really quick.
Yeah.
Not a surprise. SGA 27, 6 rebounds, 5 assists a game. Jalen was 21, 7 and 3. Chet had almost 3 blocks a game and still did 15 points, 8 rebounds a game. I mean, everybody contributed across the board. Oh, yeah. Not hard on the Pelicans. CJ McCollum's your best player. Jonas Valanciunas, those are your 2 top guys. They're at best the 3rd best player on a championship team. Valanciunas was.
Obviously, we're saying since Zion was hurt. Obviously.
Yeah. That's what I was getting. So get well soon, Zion. But I mean, I think the Pelicans maybe get 1 game even with Zion. Again, the rebounding thing, but not at all surprised by the result of Thunder Pelicans. I don't know if you have any quick thoughts there before we wrap up the first round.
First of all, no love for Brandon Ingram.
He's the 3rd, 4th, but he was like the 4th best player on the team.
He played very poorly. That's not good. I'm not mentioning
him.
He played very poorly in that series for sure.
He should have been the guy to lead that team.
Yeah, he should be the number 2 for sure, but he wasn't in that series. I'll give you that. But I mean, I didn't see this going any other way. I wouldn't have been shocked if they'd have stole a game, but obviously it didn't happen. The Thunder stepped on their throats like they should have. And it was actually good to see the Thunder do that, because obviously, again, another young and experienced playoff team. Would I have been shocked to see it be a gentleman's sweep? I wouldn't have. Just because, again, youthful inexperience. You've got some good players, some wily vets over there in New Orleans. Your CJ McCollums, your Jonas Valanciunas. Brandon Ingram, I don't know if I'd call him a wily vet, but he's a guy that could drop 25, 30 points in a game if he wants to.
He should have been the guy that led the team.
Sure. So I wouldn't have been shocked if that happened. It didn't, clearly. Not really surprising at all that they swept them. I don't think the Pelicans would have had any answers even with Zion. I agree with you there.
Last match of the first round, Mavs Clippers. I guess I'm glad I get to toot my horn on this one. Yep. I'm a little surprised. Clippers only had Kawhi Leonard for 2 of the games.
Yep.
He only averaged 12 points and 8 rebounds in those 2 games. Not great from one of the best 2-way players. Doncic and Kyrie had to put up video game numbers. They did. I mean, Luka nearly averaged a triple-double, a 30-point triple-double. They even had one, I think, in game 3 or 4. But I mean, it literally took them, putting up insane numbers just to beat a Clippers team.
Yeah.
Which I'll dwell on more later.
Yeah, and obviously I got it wrong. I don't feel bad about my pick. Obviously, if I had known...
They should have won.
Yeah, if I had known Kawhi Leonard was going to miss basically the whole series, and even when he played would stink, then clearly I would not have picked the Clippers. I picked them based on their depth. And in the games that they won, I think they showed why I picked them to win.
Yes.
Their depth was better. Their supporting cast actually played well. James Harden was hitting shots. Paul George was going crazy. I thought that they had more weapons offensively and defensively than the Mavericks. Clearly, I was not anticipating, that's the word I was thinking of, Kyrie Irving to average more points in a playoff series than he had since he was playing with LeBron. That's awesome. Good for Kyrie. I'm happy for him. But what I'll say is I think at this point with the Clippers, when you're playing poker and you're getting your butt handed to you and you're losing all your money, there's two ways that you could play this. You could cut your losses, realize it's not your night, and you could walk away. Or you can double down and say, I'm going to turn this sucker around. And the Clippers with Kawhi Leonard are choosing door number 2. They are saying, you know what? I know he's been hurt. I know he can't stay healthy. I know he's not playing well. I'm going to give him $40 million a year. And we're going to extend him, and it's going to be fine because we're going to double down, and it's not our fault, and everything's fine. Why is everybody looking at me? That's what they chose, and that's fine. You can choose that. I don't know if it's the right choice. We'll see. If he turns it around and he suddenly stays healthy for the next 3 years when he's on that contract, then it'll be a great move. But if he continues to play 20 games a year or 30 games a year and then come into the playoffs and either not play at all or play very poorly and very little, then everybody's going to sit there and be like, he did this for 3.5 years before you signed him to this extension. What the heck were you thinking? This is stupid. They're choosing to double down with Kawhi. And I don't know if it's the right choice. But we're just going to have to see because they want to keep this band together. They want to keep George and James Harden and Russell Westbrook. They want to keep those 4 and build around all of them. Is that the right move? I don't know. We'll have to find out.
So that's the first round. I mean, I think the first round was pretty entertaining. Before we get too far deep, let's start our second round picks. I'll put you first. Celtics, Cavs.
And we'll keep this brief. We've obviously talked about a lot of this stuff already. Clearly, I'm picking the Celtics here. I know I'm going to shock some people here. I'm actually picking Celtics in 7. I'm not picking them in 4. I'm not even picking them in 5. I'm very, very scared of the Cavs. Whether that's an irrational fear or not is up for debate. I think that the Cavs can get hot at any point offensively, and they are just a dormant sleeping giant. Now, is that going to come to fruition? I sure hope not. I hope everybody else is correct and that we sweep them. I really do. That would be lovely. But I'm a realist, and I just think that when you got a guy like Donovan Mitchell that can go off. I think that as soon as you get to Cleveland, there's going to be a renewed energy out there. Even if they're down 2-0, your role players play better, your stars play better at home, generally speaking. Obviously, It's not true for everyone, but I'm picking them. I'm picking Celtics, obviously, in 7, as I've said before. Could it be quicker than that? Absolutely. I mean, you can look at game 1. We played not our best and beat them by 25. Sure, I could see a world where we just run them off the floor. But I have never lived in that world where a Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown-led Celtics team actually blows everybody out when they should. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm living in it right now. It was like the Miami series. I didn't say this yet, but I said that I will not say that Miami Heat are dead unless I see a body. And so I was not willing to accept that the Miami Heat were eliminated from the playoffs until literally the final buzzer of Game 5 sounded. And then I was like, okay, they're eliminated. But literally up until that second, I'm like, they're going to come back, they're going to come back, they're going to come back, they're going to come back. Like, it's just horrifying.
You live with a lot of anxiety.
I do. It's upsetting.
It's basketball.
It's upsetting. But, anyway, Celtics in 7.
To me, it's Donovan Mitchell versus the Celtics Big 4.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, I know this honestly reminds me of Rondo, Ray Allen, in a much different form than it was then, but Rondo, Ray Allen, Pierce
versus LeBron
and Garnett. I don't know if didn't really think about who's which of each version here, but
it was the Cavs, and he was the only guy they had in 2008. So.
Yeah, but I'm on the Celtics side.
Yeah,
which is because to make it the 4 is just such a different kind of 4 than that was back in that time. I was kind of thinking the Cavs are the Eastern Conference version of the Mavericks, but I almost feel like the Mavericks might be an insult to the Cavs. I think the Mavericks are kind of maybe the Western Conference version of the Cavs because I think Mitchell has a little bit better of a supporting cast around him. I don't, kind of stinks that Jared Allen's hurt. I don't think that helps their case right now. Um, Obviously I'm taking Celtics. I'm going Celtics in 5. I think Cleveland goes home. They win Game 3. It's a close game, but then Celtics got to come in and shut that right down in Game 4.
Yeah,
they'll win it back home in Boston. It's could go 6, maybe. I would be shocked if it went 7, and I think, if it was my team that had, the only team that won 60 games, but doesn't always show up in the playoffs. If that was my team that was like that, I'd probably be the same way with you as much however time I'll give you. But I'm really hoping this is the year that the Celtics do just destroy everybody they meet in the first 2 rounds.
I hope so too because then
they gotta rest up for whoever wins this Knicks Pacers matchup.
Right. Yeah. That also. I think in terms of the proposition of the Celtics going to the finals and winning the finals, I just hope that would shut everybody up and calm everybody down.
It won't.
It won't.
People
but
hit on Boston sports,
right? And that's fine. But for me, I would at least as a Celtics fan be like, oh well, if we lose to the Knicks next year in the playoffs because it's their time, then it's their time. We've already had our time. That's okay. But if it's supposed to be our time every single year and it never happens, then every year is just going to be an anxiety-filled mess.
Yeah,
for
I don't understand that.
But anyways, Pacers and Knicks. Speaking of the Knicks, so just kind of expanding on what I've already said with this, Knicks in 7. I know 2 7-game series in the East. I'm sure the NBA is going yes, money. But I already said I don't see how the Knicks beat the Pacers in Indiana without making a million different assumptions. Especially again, you were playing 7 guys with Mitchell Robinson playing. Now he's not playing. Are you going to play Precious Achiuwa 25 minutes a night? He's going to get demolished. By Miles Turner's going to average 35 points a night if he's playing against Precious Achiuwa for 20 minutes. Forget it. So, I don't see how the Knicks win in Indiana. Maybe they will, and they'll prove me wrong, and I'll see it, and I'll be like, oh, that's how they did it. Interesting. Okay. Well, the Pacers just stink. That's
Jalen
cool.
Brunson dropped.
Jalen Brunson scored 72 points in Game 3. Oh dear. Whatever.
What's the most? I should look that up. What's the most points in a playoff game by a player? I know Jordan hit 63 back in the day.
Yeah, I was about to say I know Jordan had a 60-plus point game. I don't know if anybody's ever scored more than that in a playoff game.
But let's just say hit
65-point Jalen Brunson game.
Hey, the way he plays and just dogs the court and just launches himself all over the place, I wouldn't be surprised.
For sure. But yeah, Knicks in 7 for me. I think it's going to be... I don't know how in the world the Knicks... again, in my world, Celtics win against the Cavs, right? So they'd be playing... I don't know how in the world, if the Knicks play 7 against the Pacers, how in the world they're going to beat the Celtics. Yeah. They're just going to be dead by the time they get there. Yeah. I don't know how that's going to be a thing, awesome. But we'll see.
I think barn burner when I think of this series. I think both teams can score 140 points. I'd love to see a playoff series where each game is, averaging 250, 260 points in the game as a total. To me, that'd just be awesome. And I think
stressful.
And the NBA would just be money. This is the first time these two teams have met in 11 years. I'm cheering for the Knicks. It's weird.
Okay.
It's my younger self from the 90s would be ashamed, I think, of myself right now because, you cheered for the Bulls right then. The Knicks were the biggest rival of the Bulls in the Eastern Conference, or one of the rivals, that me and Indiana were. So it's I think we'll get a lot of reminders of Reggie Miller and Patrick Ewing throughout the series. Got from the email from the NBA.com, they do a starting 5 thing. every day after games. Pacers, the highest scoring team in the last 40 years. 123, almost 124 points a game. Third highest assist average of all time. Almost 31 assists a game. Highest effective field goal percentage this year, so it's at almost 58%. So it's like they shoot really well. Again, we were talking about that earlier. You know, they're deep. They have a deep bench. They got guys that do well off the bench. You know, but the Knicks, on the other hand, might be their perfect matchup. They allow the second fewest points per game at 108, which is weird. Like we're saying, like,
that's the second fewest. Points.
How the NBA has changed in the last 10 years.
Man,
I miss the Spurs defense.
Yeah.
You know, they're a top rebounding team. You know, for even though guys keep dropping.
Yeah.
You know, they are still
Isaiah Hartenstein's their only center left, and somehow they're rebounding better than everybody.
But they're second chance points in the season at 16.8 second chance points, and I think that's where their bread and butter is. If the Pacers can be like, if the Pacers, you know, can just collect the rebounds with their missed shots, because the Knicks are going to miss a lot of shots.
And Miles Turner, his whole career, has not been the best rebounder for a big guy.
You know, and then there's slowest pace. So we got fastest team, highest scoring team versus one of the supposedly better defenses. So I mean, you know, I think it's gonna be electric. Game 1 was awesome, 4-point win for them. I believe Game 2 is playing while we're recording this.
I believe so. Let me look that up.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure Game 2 is being recorded while we're playing this. So you know, to me, it's like if the Pacers win Game 2,
yes.
This is going 7, and I think if the Pacers win Game 2, I think they have a great chance of winning the series. But I think we'll have to take it to 7. I'm still going though with the Knicks. And I'm going with the Knicks in 6.
I'm going to pause this just so everybody knows I'm reacting to this live. I am heartbroken and very upset right now. Nikola Jokic just won MVP again. I do not think he should have. I have been fully on Team Shea all year long that he should have won MVP. I think that Shea got robbed, and I think that I don't get how. Anyway, that's just I'm reacting to that live, and I'm just like pure unadulterated disappointment.
That's a shame.
Oh man, it is a shame. That was so.
As much as we talked, and I did pick Jokic in that discussion, you kind of convinced me it should have been Shea to begin with.
I think it should have been Shea. He's the best player on the best team in the West. He's obviously better at a lot of things than Jokic is. I just think that, you know, especially when it's, you know, you've got a guy that's already won his MVPs. He's already up there. I look at need, right? Also into it, like, all right, who would it impact? Would it be more impactful if Jokic won a third MVP, or would it be more impactful if Shea won his first MVP? I feel like it'd be more impactful if Shea won his first. Because if Jokic wins his third at any point in his career, then, okay, well, I mean, is it really that big a difference between 2 and 3? I don't know. I don't think so. What's he, not an all-time great if he wins 2 and suddenly he's the best player of all time if he wins 3? No, he's a phenomenal player regardless. So, like, it was like, you know, Steph Curry winning Finals MVP in 2022. Did that matter a whole lot in terms of his placement on Mount Rushmore in basketball? Did he move from 195 to 6 by winning one more Finals MVP? I don't think so. He might have went from 7 to 6. Oh, big deal. Like, who cares? Like, to me, it doesn't matter. Anyway, back to this. That's my rant for that.
That's fine. I'm going Knicks here. I'm going Knicks in 6 again.
Close it out in Indiana. Those fans would be heartbroken. Oh man, I don't want to hear that. That'd be so sad.
But like we were saying earlier, like these are two really good young teams that are going to be so much fun to watch. That you know, it's you know, if Boston can keep their core together for a few more years, I mean, we're getting some epic battles between all 3 of these teams.
Ooh, we sure are. It's going to be fun. And plus, Pacers and Knicks have an amazing playoff history. Rivalry. So like that's just a lot fun to see the new iteration.
Michael Jordan, Reggie or Patrick Ewing would have retired with at least a ring.
I think Reggie Miller certainly could have. I think he could have if you know the rest of his team didn't decide to punch fans. I think that might have been their year too.
Wasn't
It didn't happen.
Reggie wasn't on that team with Latrell.
He was hurt, but he was on that team. That was his last year.
That doesn't count.
I mean, he still would have had a ring. He would have. It would have been the Udonis Haslem if he'd have won a ring last year kind of version of it. But hey, it still would have counted. He would have got one. Oh goodness. But anyway, okay.
Thunder Mavs.
Yep, Thunder Mavs.
Good luck, Luka.
I don't see a world where the Mavs win this thing. I
luck,
just
Luka.
don't. Yeah,
I'm not in your corner this time.
it's one thing to beat the Clippers, who are have 2 stars that underperform in the playoffs,
A team that doesn't have a direction.
or literally don't perform, as in they're just on the bench in sweatpants going, I wish that I could play basketball, but my knees are made of powder. Like, it's one thing to play them. It's another thing to play the guy who should have won MVP, the guy who should have won Most Improved. Well, maybe he should. Okay, Kobe White should have won Most Improved, to be honest, in Chicago. He went from averaging 9 points a game to averaging 19 and 8. Like,
yeah,
he was going to be out of the NBA if he didn't play well this year.
And Chet Holmgren is the Rookie of the Year any other year.
That Wemby doesn't exist, yeah. So, like, you're playing that team, plus Josh Giddey's a lot better than what he played the second half of the year. Sorry, you're running into a buzzsaw out there in OKC. And again, it's a bad matchup for the Mavs.
Yeah.
And it's a great matchup for the Thunder.
Do you think it's a sweep?
No. I think Luka and Kyrie will carry you to at least 1 game in Dallas. But if not 2 games in Dallas, I wouldn't be surprised if they won both game 3 and game 4. And then, the Thunder went, all right, that's enough, and then beat them 2 games in a row. I got to be honest with you. If you're the Thunder, it's how lucky are they that they got the 1 seed? Because if they didn't get the 1 seed, they'd either have to play Denver or Minnesota in this round, both of which are terrible matchups for the Thunder. Terrible. Again, we talked about how bad they are at rebounding. Jokic or the Twin Towers is who you'd face in the second round.
Twin Towers 2.0, thank you very much.
Sorry, Twin Towers 2.0. I'm sorry.
You're getting to pull my teams tonight. Like, I'm going to cut here, cut there, cut here.
But no, it just, I don't see a world where the Thunder don't win this series. I think obviously, and especially you're seeing like the guys for the Thunder are averaging basically what they averaged, if not more than what they did in the regular season. So they are the same team, and they were the 1 seed in the West. So
yeah.
I don't see a world where the Mavericks win 4 times out of 7.
Yeah.
Against this team. Or now this time 4 times out of 6, because they obviously lost game 1.
Right. Yeah, no, especially after that game 1, I don't think Luka even hit 20 points in that game. He had a bad game.
He's been playing very poorly the last couple of games.
Yeah, he has.
I think he's battling through some kind of injury with like a knee injury or something, so that could be hampering him, but who knows.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the Thunder have to take, my final thought is Thunder have to take this series as quick as possible.
Yep.
Because you got to get some rest up and figure out a game plan against who Mavericks going to win the last matchup we're going to talk about. But yeah, Thunder win this for me. I think in 5. I agree. Mavs take 1 of the home games. Game 4 desperation, kind of like the Lakers against the Nuggets. Maybe, but it could sweep. But I don't think we're really going to see any sweeps in the first round. Well, maybe
or second round. I mean, yeah.
Second round. But yeah, this would be the closest I think possibility.
Yeah, I agree. I will say I do disagree with one thing. I do think we're going to see a sweep in the second round, and it's this series that we're about to talk about.
I'm shocked right now. The fact that they not only won 1 but 2 in Denver.
I said at the beginning of this video that I would acknowledge where cheating comes into play, and it took all this time for me to acknowledge it. This is the cheating. 100% I was going to pick Denver. Series.
Oh yeah,
I don't think it was. I did not think that the Timberwolves had the guts to go in there and beat the defending champs.
Yeah, no, if you would have recorded this last week, I would have been right there with you. I'd probably said in 7, right there with you with Denver.
Yeah, I don't even know if I would have said in 7. I probably would have said in 5 or 6 because for me, I looked at Minnesota. I said this earlier in the video. Like, what's going to happen when they go up against a team with great defense? My original thought was, what's going to happen when they go up against a team that actually has playoff experience playing with one another and just won a championship?
They don't care, apparently.
They don't care. And that's crazy. Like, I did not expect them. I wasn't super shocked that they won Game 1. I thought maybe, Denver would come out a little rusty. Minnesota had a lot of time to rest as well. And they were just going to come out a little bit more fired up again to play the defending champs. When you got a young team like that, sometimes you just get a little more fired up. You get a little more juice behind it. Denver's been there, so maybe they weren't as up for the game. I'm floored that they won Game 2, and I'm even more floored that they won Game 2 by like 30 or whatever it was. I think it was like 120 to 85 or something ridiculous, or 110 to 85. Whatever it was, they just blew their doors off. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, if Denver loses Game 1, they're champs. They're going to respond. They're going to win the second game at home. Obviously. They did not. They got beaten to death.
106-99 was Game 1. 106 to 80.
106-80, okay.
That was the first... Oh, I had actually... this NBA starting 5 email thing is awesome.
Okay.
Where'd it go? It was... So, it's first time in 11 years that a team has held a defending champ to 80 points or less.
Yeah, and guess what? It was San Antonio. So there's your nice there's your nice comparison.
They remind me of. I mean, and Minnesota's always kind of just had just that little bit, and we're talking about so much of Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, who should be player of the year, but I think he gets a little more credibility than Jokic with MVP.
That bothers me because
Wemby should have done it, but
Wemby's counting stats and analytical stats are better than Gobert's, so I don't understand.
We should just rant about all the awards on another podcast.
Probably, yes. I think they got them all incorrect. How was Joe Mazzulla not even top 3 in Coach of the Year? He won 15 more games than every other team. Anyway.
We will not talk about Coach of the Year, though, because that'll be an hour in itself.
Anyway. By the way, that doesn't say Mark Deschanel didn't deserve it. He 100% deserved it. He was fantastic. Absolutely deserves it. Joe Mazzulla deserved it.
That was one I was not going to rub into you over text, because I was afraid you're going to come to the phone and scream at me.
But I said it to you. I said he's not even going to be in the top 3, because that's what happens with the Celtics. They don't care. They're just like, oh, they're good all the time. I don't care. I could be the Celtics coach and they could win 55 games, apparently. Like, hey, coach, you gonna drop inbounds play? What's an inbounds play? Never mind, we got it. We're really good. Ding, ding, ding. Like, apparently that's what they think could happen in Boston. I don't know. It's whatever. Anyway, continue with...
To me, I think the guy that we haven't mentioned, though, is Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
Him and Cat combined for 50 points, at least 50 points in the first 2 games. And then even have Gobert in the second game. That's what's shocking to me in that score, too. They didn't have Gobert.
Yeah, they blew their doors off and beat him up defensively without the defensive player of the year. Crazy.
Yeah, so, I mean, I was looking this up before these 2 games, and what I have written, if you're reading what I have on my screen, I have it completely wrong because I missed something. But I was looking back at the last 2 seasons, the regular season. Denver has only lost 15 games at home in the last 2 years in the regular season. They only lost 1 game in last year's playoff run. They've already lost 2 games at home in 1 series.
Yeah.
Like, just because Denver is the defending champs, I don't think a sweep. Would I be surprised at this rate? I wouldn't be surprised at this rate. They'll probably be playing Game 3 when this is released, I'm assuming, or that night will be Game 3. When you have this,
anyway, it's not tonight, is it?
No, I don't think
it's tomorrow night, I think.
But I mean, if Denver can't win Game 3, it could very well be a sweep. I wouldn't be surprised to see this go 7. Denver would have to win Game 3. Minnesota defends home court at 4, but then Denver's just got to, somehow win 2 in a row, which means they get to go back home, but then they got to go right back to Minnesota for Game 6. So it's like, I have literally written down here right now, my pick is Wolves in 7, but I'm going to say Wolves in 6 at this point because it's like you
I genuinely don't. I don't know how the Nuggets are going to beat them.
I don't either, and I think
even 1 game, I don't see it.
And to me, I feel like this is where it's the sum of the parts for Denver is really good. And maybe this is me just coming more of it from a casual basketball fan. Outside Jamal Murray, I feel like, and Michael Porter Jr.
Yes,
yeah. Like I feel like there isn't a lot of guys that can really step up on Denver outside of those two guys and Jokic. Am I wrong?
Their depth offensively is rough. Yes. Michael Porter Jr. is blossoming into I don't know if I'd say a guy that we all thought he could be, because he was going to be the surefire number one pick in the draft had he not had back surgery in college.
Right.
So I don't know if he's going to be living up to generational number one pick type hype, but 20 points, 7 boards, a good lanky...
A major contributor.
Yeah, he's not a terrible defender anymore. He used to be absolutely atrocious. Now he's at least serviceable. He's gotten better in that area, which is great for them. Obviously, we know what Eric Gordon can do, but he's not a great offensive player.
Right.
So, yeah. And then obviously coming off your bench, Christian Braun.
Yeah.
What was it? He hit a 3 the other day, and they said it was like his first 3-pointer that he hit in the playoffs in like 15 games. Like he just couldn't. He was missing everything. Was that your best offensive guy off the bench? Because that's unfortunate.
That's very unfortunate.
So yeah, the starting five is
4.
No, that's not what I meant. But it's just one of those things where I just don't see.
I mean,
I don't see Denver being able to keep up.
It's almost like I had an analogy in my head. It's almost like wrecking ball meet brick wall, and the wrecking ball is the Timberwolves.
Oh yeah, for sure. and you talked about Ant. I love a lot of people. They always say every 2 that scores and is kind of competitive, they're just going to call him the next Kobe Bryant. That's what everybody does. But I actually think he reminds me of a different 2 that was dominant around that same era. He's got a lot of Tracy McGrady in him.
Ooh.
I mean, just I'm gonna just shoot over you. I can drive. I can dunk on anyone. That competitive spirit. Is he quite as big as Tracy McGrady? Tracy McGrady was 6'8", 6'9", obviously, and the other was only 6'4", I think. So he doesn't have quite that size, but he's got the build. He's got that ferocity. Obviously, he can score on anyone from anywhere, and it's hard to stop. So he reminds me a lot of Tracy McGrady. And let me tell you, for those of you who didn't watch Tracy McGrady, he was ridiculously good.
Kobe Bryant is listed as one of those few people that
scared him.
Struggled against,
yeah.
And he did not like playing.
Scared him. Yeah. He had all the athletic tools. He had everything. He was a complete
unfortunate
player. Yeah. Never had any team success though, so he's not really looked at as that like top tier 2 guard.
Didn't he get hurt too?
Yeah, a lot of injuries as well.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Him and Vince, took the league by storm when they were on the Raptors. And I mean,
yeah, and then obviously him and Grant Hill and Dwight Howard on the Magic, and then obviously him and Yao Ming and the Rockets.
The team of all the potential that we could have had, but was never fully realized right there.
But here's how
Tracy, Grant, and Dwight.
Here's how unlucky Tracy McGrady was. Do you want to know how many playoff series Tracy McGrady won in his career?
I'm going to say, 1.
You are correct. Where
when?
You should know this.
I know. I'm going to say
it was in 2000 and I think 8 or 9 or 10, his last season with the San Antonio Spurs. He played 7 total minutes in that series. That is the only playoff series he won. All those years he played, all the 30-point seasons, he never won a playoff series in his career until he got 40 years old or whatever, in 38 or whatever he was.
Guy off the bench for a
he never played. That was the only time he ever won. Crazy to think about in his career. But anyway, Anthony Edwards reminds me a lot of him. And man, imagine Tracy McGrady on the Timberwolves. Like back when they had KG and all those just defensive juggernauts out there when they were, going to the Western Conference Finals and losing. That's what you're getting right now. That is a scary proposition for the NBA. Ant is a superstar. He's got next. He's going to be an MVP candidate for years and years to come. And again, I don't see how Denver wins a game.
And that just makes me can't wait for if it happens this way, which it should at this rate. Anything can happen. But that just makes me salivate at the possibility of SGA and Anthony and going at each other.
Yep.
For 7 games in the Western Conference Finals.
And
I don't know if that's even 7. But
I don't even know if that's 7 either. I don't know if that's more than 5 at this point. I mean, I know that it's hyperbole, and a lot of people overreact to these games. Do you understand that a team
won 2 games in Denver, though?
That a team with LeBron James, who is known for ripping your heart out and making all these comeback wins and being impossible to beat, had lost to Denver 2 years in a row by having Denver come back over and over and over and over and over and over again. Minnesota's not only beating that team, they're beating them on their own floor,
which they've lost
and brutally
times
beating
in the last 2 years.
Yeah, and destroying them on that home floor. This is not a drill, folks. Minnesota is here, and they are here to stay. And they might mess around and win a championship if we're not careful. I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
This is not a drill. And that's why I said earlier, it's like looking out into the forest and seeing 2 red being glowing eyes and going, that's not a monster. It's going to be fun. And that's what we did to Minnesota. They were the best defensive team in basketball and went, they're going to stink in the playoffs. And then they didn't, and now we're all like, crap. I think they might be the best team in the NBA right now.
Anthony Edwards coming out party.
Man.
Yeah. Like the more hardcore fans obviously know what Anthony Edwards can do in the last few years, but
man. Oh man, it's gonna be interesting. But
there's a reason we saved that series to last.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Man, it's crazy what's going on with Minnesota right now. But anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for us. Let us know what you guys thought about all this in the comments section. Do you agree with our picks? Do you completely disagree? Does anybody have Denver making a big comeback in this playoff series? They could do it. They could do it. I just don't see how they could do it. But obviously, if they win twice in Minnesota, then oh boy, we're in for a heck of a series. So strap in. Let us know what you guys think about everything. Thank you so very much for watching. Oh, subscribe if you haven't, by the way. But regardless, we will see you all next time.